Can you maybe backtrack a little bit and talk about how this project emerged and where it was going before Snowden arrived before that first email? I know that the idea was to make a film about surveillance, which obviously is a large, abstract, invisible subject. And what were you doing I know you've been working on this since The Oath, and what were you doing in the years before? And obviously, I think some of the figures that you were following are still in this film, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, this film actually began in the spring of 2011, and I was interested in the theme of surveillance. It was also when WikiLeaks was coming out, and I was interested in the work that they were doing, which also related to journalism. So I was interested in these themes, and I was working on trying to figure out what access. I mean, oftentimes my work, it's about, there's some themes I'm interested in, and then it's like trying to figure out how I can, follow, or what will take me on a journey that will help me understand those things. And so, but in the spring of 2011, I didn't quite know, but I was really interested in this, this guy who was blogging for Salon.com, and he was down in Rio, and he was, I was reading him all the time, and he was just doing this really fierce journalism, totally outside of the mainstream, and I loved his work, and I didn't quite know what the film and how it would come together, but I said, well, okay, why don't I get on a plane and spend some time with him. And so that's when I first filmed with Glenn, and I was with Kirsten Johnson, the cinematographer, and it's the opening. It's turns out to be the opening of the film, and he's at that very moment writing about Jane Mayer's article about Thomas Drake, who's an NSA whistleblower who was at that point facing espionage charges. So it's ironically that's how sort of the very, very first shoot. And then sort of the film expanded. I actually reached out to Bill Binney at exactly that time, right after the New Yorker piece broke. So I actually called Bill from Rio. So the sort of origins happened there. But then I started expanding, and I did a lot of filming with Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, and also Jacob Appelbaum, who you see in the film, the Tor Project. And I was very interested in, surveillance, resistance movements, people who are working, activists. I mean, this was sort of in the aftershock of the Arab Spring. So I was filming in Tunisia, where Jake was working, and also Egypt. And then, so we were actually, Mathilde and I were editing, that film, and then Snowden started to email. And what happened was, in the end, we realized, in the editing room, we realized we actually have two films. There was that because of the material that I shot around Snowden and the way that Hong Kong we knew would occupy a large piece of the film, it kind of dictated what this film would be. Like for a while we had a lot more material before we arrived at Hong Kong, and then it was very hard to shift gears. It was like you opened a different story, midway through, and so we realized that there were two films, and that this one was going to sort of focus on Snowden. But it was a decision that we made in the editing room that there's material for two films.